You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 26 of Teach Better Talk. I am Ray Hewart, and I have to tell you guys, we have, of course, Jeff with us, but we have a really cool episode that we're about to do with the big man in charge. I mean, this is going to be pretty awesome, Jeff.
The big man in charge, I like it.
Oh yeah, this is going to be pretty cool. So we have a lot in store. It's with my two favorite gentlemen in education right now, so I can kind of brag on them that I think this is going to be a pretty great episode. But before we get into that, Jeff, I'm going to start with asking you how you're doing, and then we're just going to make this an awesome recording.
Well, Ray, I just found out that apparently I'm one of your two favorite people in education, so I'm doing awesome right now. That's really great. I will note that last episode I was the incredible Jeff. Now I'm like just whatever. So I'm not really sure. I'm kind of having torn emotions between being one of your favorite but also not being incredible any longer. But in all seriousness, I'm super, super excited. We're on episode 26, and I say this constantly, but I can't believe that we're on episode 26 already. Like, this is crazy. It's been such a fun journey with this. And you're right, this is a really cool episode because we've got Chad Ostrowski on with us, and Chad is not only one of my best friends in the entire world, but also the guy who I kind of started this crazy journey with the what's developed into the Teach Better team, and we joined forces with amazing people like yourself and Tiffany and Amber and Michelle and everybody to do what we do every day. So it's really exciting. Now you and I are going to dig into Chad's brain even more than we ever have before, possibly. We're going to get in there and we're going to share it with the world. So I'm super excited. For those of you who don't know, Chad is a former 7th grade science teacher. He's a Woodrow Wilson teaching fellow from out of the Ohio. He's one of the first ones, I think, in Ohio. He can correct me on that because I'm probably wrong. But a classroom teacher who then created something that we share all over the country called the Grid Method. And we'll talk probably a little bit about that. But Chad and I co-founded this Teach Better team, and now we grow it with Ray and Tiffany and everyone else. So it's kind of a unique episode for us. Chad, really excited that you finally, after 26 episodes, you felt like you could come on the podcast with us. So super excited to have you on, man. Really appreciate it. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to finally be here on the Teach Better Talk podcast. You guys have been doing amazing work all this time, and due to schedules and everything else, it's been way too long for this to finally come together. But you guys are two of my favorite people as well, and I'm absolutely excited to dig into some of this stuff with you and finally be here on Teach Better Talk.
So, Chad, I know Jeff gave you a pretty good introduction, but really what I want listeners to know is that meeting you changed my life. And so when people meet you, I mean, it's the truth. When people meet you, I'm so interested in how you explain what you do, because the way you explained it to me a few years ago, truly, it was a game changer for me. So what do you do, Chad?
Wow, I don't even know how to follow that. We could just end the episode now, I think, after that.
No kidding.
I'm done. Ray, thank you. That is amazing. We talk a lot. I'm just going to tear up a little bit here. But that was fantastic. Thank you. But the easiest way I can say is that I help educators become the best version of themselves through the Teach Better mindset, through innovative practices in any way we possibly can. So, that's at the core of, I think, everything I do and everything we do as a team is we take these innovative ideas, we take these innovative practices, whether it's the Grid Method, whether it's Teach Further, whether it's any of the stuff that we best practice to be talk to teachers about, and we help them find themselves in these best practices, and we help educators be the best version of themselves while applying what we know to be the most effective practices in education. So that's the most generic kind of overall blanketing statement I can give for kind of what we do. And it's grown so much. Jeff mentioned the Grid Method early on, and that's where all this started. But it's become so much more than that, because we honestly get to work with teachers from across the country to help make them better. And I'm just so honored to have the amazing team that we have and to do the amazing work that we get to do. So that's my quick explanation of what I think we do.
I think you summed that up pretty well. And I want to note, like, we talked about how it's been too long for us to get you on the podcast and stuff. And I was going to say, well, we finally like tied you down, but the fact of the matter is you're on the road right now working with teachers. So like we still can't tie you down. Yeah. So like that just says like what's grown them in that. So you touched on, how this all started and this journey that we've been on and stuff. And so like my next question, I'm going to talk about failure, Chad. And I know you and I could sit down and probably lay out 35,000 failures that we've had over this short life that we've had. This thing going on and everything that we've done. And you know me, you know that I love it. And I talk about it all the time. So now can you share for us and for the listeners a time that you failed? Kind of take us there with you. What happened? How did you feel? How did you overcome it? And then, what did you take away from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest failure, in my opinion, was actually in teaching. And it actually helped spawn the reason why we're here. And do what we do. And that was when I had the worst year of my entire teaching career. So I went to a brand new school with two brand new principals with, to be politically correct, a very challenging population, high needs, inner city, 100% economically disadvantaged, which I was used to teaching in. But, I started to see these problems and have these issues in my classroom that I never had before as a teacher. Had one of the most difficult years of my entire life. My students weren't achieving. I wasn't holding them accountable. I was lowering my standards. I was having more management issues than ever. And I'd like to say there was a single moment of that year that was like a failing point, but it literally just ate away at me every single day, where the entire year was just, it felt like a failure to me. And I almost quit teaching because of that. And through some reflection, through talking to people and some of my mentors and things like that, I decided to stick with teaching, but I knew it had to work different. I knew that what I was doing in the classroom, regardless of how innovative it was, regardless if there was inquiry and PBL and all these other STEM things that I was doing as a teacher that I'd learned in the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship and through my master's program. And I was trying to be an innovative educator, but none of it was working. So I had to make some drastic shifts. And it's those shifts and solving those problems that kind of created out of the ether the grid method, and trying to solve some of these issues. And out of that failure, at my lowest point, came what I now consider one of our greatest successes in terms of impacting kids and impacting teachers across the country. So in terms of overcoming it, I realized that I have two choices. I can wallow in this. I can quit teaching. I can give up on everything I've worked for. I can change careers and put my family through that, or I can be better. And being better is something that was at the core of everything, because it wasn't about let me change everything now. It was, okay, how do I make my students' experience better? How do I make my grading practices and my assessment practices better? How do I make my classroom management better? Taking each of these pieces, looking at them from a component standpoint, finding out how to reach my students, how to adapt and find solutions. And out of all of those things coming together, that's really where the grid method came from. So like I learned how to better myself and how to create classroom frameworks that include all of these pieces of better and all of these solutions that can increase student achievement. And I feel like we've continued to take that same mentality and try to tackle now a bunch of different aspects of education, whether it's finding real-world connections, increasing engagement, whether it's standards-based grading, UDL, like all of these are best practice and things we know work in education. But it's finding small, incremental, systematic ways for teachers to implement these things without like killing themselves and giving them practical solutions in the classroom. So like, I feel like that birth of the grid method is sort of the same philosophy and that teach better mindset that we have now embodied as a team, and I think that's what I learned from it, is that you can solve any problem, but it doesn't happen by wallowing in it. It happens by finding solutions. And you guys have heard me say this a lot, but like, if you see a house on fire, you put the fire out, find the solution, and then you figure out why it got started later. If you sit around pointing fingers at why this fire started or whose fault it is, you're not solving the problem, right? So being focused on solutions, being solution-oriented and growth-focused can really allow you to better yourself as an individual, better yourself as an educator, better yourself as a person. So I guess I learned a lot because I've been talking for a while about this.
Right, I love it. And something you touched on there, Chad, was the incremental changes, the small changes, because I think a lot of teachers, when we go, and a lot of people when we share different stories and different ideas with them, they can get overwhelmed because it seems like a lot. And it was actually funny, on episode 25 with Joy Kerr, she talked about how the changes don't need to be these massive shifts. They just need to be small little shifts that you do, and you touched on the same exact thing. It's just, and that's that teach better mindset. It just doesn't have to happen overnight. It doesn't have to happen all this week or this month or even this year. Take the small steps, and it's that continuous, or as you always say, that relentless pursuit of being better all the time. So
right.
I love that you fit that little piece in there as well. So now let's flip it around, and I know you have a bunch of these stories too, because we've been there. And we can think of a lot of different successes that we've had. I can think of a huge one. That's the fact of somehow convincing Ray to work with us.
Yeah, that was, you know what, that was number one on the list.
Aside from that one, let's flip it. Let's talk about a success that you've had. And this can be something big or something small or somewhere in the middle, but tell us what it was that happened, why you consider it a success, and then what did you take away from that experience?
So thinking about success, I don't really like to. I think I have more little successes that build up to a larger success than. So like the culmination of many successes, I think builds up to one larger success. And one of my biggest successes, and I think more appropriately, our successes are getting emails and calls from teachers. And I had a teacher today in a classroom tell me that they're going to do, they're grid for life. That's what they said, because they've never been able to improve teaching and be less stressed than they have when they're running things that we helped show them. Or when we get an email or talk to a teacher who transforms their classroom with the Teach Further unit, and their students are just lit up and seeing these real world connections and seeing these career connections and connecting what they're learning to the real world. Or when implementing self-paced mastery learning helps a teacher with their classroom management. I mean, we've had teachers tell us that their marriage was saved by changing their teaching style. I want you to think about that for a second. Like, real impacts on real people, real educators that are also better for the students in their classroom. And so these aren't even counting the ones where the school that calls us and says, we increased a report card from an F to a C in a single year from teachers using the things that you taught them, or the countless number of emails we get saying that the lowest student in my class is now working harder than they ever have before. So like, any one of these moments, any one of these things could be a biggest success. But I think all of them collectively, and knowing that we're doing good and putting more good out, and the most good out that we possibly can, and that it's helping students and teachers and schools and districts all at the same time. Like, I feel like that's my and our biggest success. And I never imagined, Jeff, I think you're in the same boat with me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I never imagined being able to have the impact that we have had and that I think we can have into the future. And I think that impact, and it's something that you've said a lot and I've echoed a lot, is if this all ends tomorrow and we've helped one student do more than they ever thought they could, like, we've done our job. Mm-hmm. And I think we've surpassed that so much that like even though I don't sleep most nights because we have so much going on, that we can sleep easy if we wanted to, just because of that fact that we've had this impact, and that's a huge success that I think we take away motivation and drive, and like that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps us going a lot of the time is getting that email, getting that call, getting that text or that tweet or whatever it is, saying that like I'm better now because of what you showed me. I'm reaching more students now because of what you shared with me. My teachers are improving their practice because of what you showed them. Students are more engaged in learning because of the things that we shared with them. And that's huge, right? And that's what I took away from it. Everything that we do, I guess, is what I took away from that.
Love it.
Hey everyone, while we take a quick break, I want to make sure I mentioned how impactful the grid method has been in my educational career. If you are a teacher looking to reach more students, I promise you can listen to every podcast in the world and participate in any Twitter chat, but the grid method is the step that I needed to take to really ensure I was reaching all my students. So if you're interested in learning more, there's a free course, there's a full course, and everything in between. Head over to teachbetter.com and find more details.
It's so funny hearing both sides because, you know, I used to be one of those teachers that didn't believe in mastery learning. I remember the first time we connected, you were like, hey, Ray, I have this really great self-paced mastery framework. You should try it out. I'm like, okay, Chad, whoever you are, who we've, you know, it's like the first time we had met. And I was like, I don't believe in self-paced learning. And your face, you were like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I know it's a great idea. I've done a, flipped classroom. I've done all these things, but there's all these pitfalls. And as an educator, I've heard from so many teachers that, self-paced learning is a great idea. Focusing on mastery is a great idea, but there's no way to actually implement it. It's just a great idea. And so my mind was blown. I remember the moment that I said, okay, Chad, I'll just try it. I put what I was teaching already. I thought I was a pretty good darn teacher before you came around. Okay. I'm pretty confident with what I was doing.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah. And so I put everything I was doing into this mastery framework that supposedly was going to change my life. And no kidding, I did it for one unit. I never thought I'd do it again. And my kids fought me tooth and nail. They're like, no, Miss Hewart, this is how we learn. This is how classrooms should look. I take surveys of my kids every 6 months, more than that, every 4 months, asking them if they like what we're doing, asking them what they need more of. And they are constantly telling me this mastery framework has changed the game for them. And so it's incredible to hear your stories being on now, of course, being a part of the team and being able to support teachers in doing this, how, it's so exciting to see that education is taking this shift of really focusing on our students, what they need, what they want, and making, our classrooms really adaptable for them. So while I totally stole all of that excitement, because that's really what I'm excited about, I have to ask you, outside of all that, is there something else that you're really excited about in education right now?
There's so much that we should be excited about in education right now. In all honesty, so the current education system is over 100 years old in this country, right? And we have these traditional models of education that have survived these decades of transformations in society. Education really, for the most part, at least until recently, has not changed very much. And I finally feel like that, like, the ideas that we preach and that we practice, whether it's connecting our students to the world, whether it's allowing them to personalize their learning, whether it's allowing them to work at their own pace, or expecting mastery, or standards-based grading, or universal design, or differentiation. So, like, we've known about these things for decades. We've known about these things for so many years. In fact, like, mastery learning started in the 1960s, and there's actually a machine that was like a scroll-based thing, and that, like, if you punched the right hole, it would go to a different. Like, if you really think about, like, how ridiculous that is, it's just amazing to me. And the thing I'm most excited about is I think we're finally at a point where technology, tools and resources, and students are all ready for this immense shift in education to be a more student-centered, student-focused environment. And I finally feel like that shift from this 100-year-old archaic, out-of-date system, right, is ready to be made. And I don't think you could legitimately say that at any other point in history, right? I don't think you can legitimately say that. You could have said, hey, when they created paper, the principals actually worried about kids being able to write on slate without getting messy. Like, there's actually a quote that says, like, principals, when paper became readily available, were worried that students would lose the ability to write on slate, which is hilarious to all of us at this point, right? So, like, and I also always say that there was someone who bought a horse the day before the car was invented, and they lost. They lost that bet. And I feel like right now, like, educators across the country and across the world who are betting on the future are going to win. Those who are betting on these archaic and traditional systems that are teacher-centered and teacher-driven, I think are going to lose that bet. But I think right now, in this moment, in time, in the history of education, we have the greatest ability to move forward, to shift the pendulum, and to make real educational change, because we're finally ready and have the resources to do it. So I think that's what I'm most excited about.
No, that's awesome. And so to really focus on the future, the next question I was going to ask you was about our future educators. We have teachers entering every single year, and new teachers that are either new to the building, new to the field, or maybe they're just a few years in. What kind of advice can you give progressive, eager to learn teachers that really is going to shape their success moving forward in this field?
Absolutely. So the biggest advice I can try to give student teachers is, or new teachers, is do not let your experience or years dictate how good you think you are as a teacher, right? We talk with teachers all the time, whether they're first year, second, third year teachers, or 20-year veterans or 10-year veterans. Every teacher we talk to has the capability to be amazing and to just be awesome, right? So a lot of new teachers fall into this trap of, if I just hide, I get through my first year, it's going to be okay. Or I'm just going to focus on, this one little thing because it's my first year. And I truly do not think that it being your first year should dictate how many new things you try or how many innovative things you want to attempt with your students. Because there's a universal truth in education, is that the 30 students that a brand new teacher has and the 30 students that a 20-year veteran teacher has deserve the same quality of education, right? So a lot of times, early teachers, rookie teachers end up talking themselves out of doing amazing things. And it's because maybe they're timid or maybe they're afraid to fail. And like, they need to learn, and this is a phrase that Jeff uses a lot, they need to fail forward. They can't be afraid to try new things, and they absolutely should not be trying to blend in or hide. They need to stand out. Most of all, they need to stay awesome, because we need more new teachers. There's going to be a teacher shortage, and I think, which is a huge problem in the country right now. So I think empowering those new teachers and supporting them so that they're not afraid to fail, and so that they can fail forward, so they can learn from their mistakes and become, once again, the best versions of themselves. That's something that I would tell any new teacher. Absolutely.
Love it. Great advice, Chad. I'm going to turn to Ray now and see if she has any advice for you for this next part.
Oh, God. Okay, Chad. Next part, you know how Jeff is. He goes online and he has a live stream of some sort, whether it be a podcast recording or a Facebook on the Grid Method or Teach Better Team page. And he says, "Hey, Chad, I have this question for you. Would you mind elaborating on this really challenging topic? You have 30 seconds. Go." And so you sit there, and for 15 of those seconds, you're speechless because you're like, Wait, 30 seconds to explain that entire idea that you just asked me? Well, this is even worse. Jeff is going to ask you 6 questions, and you have 15 seconds or less to answer each question. And he is sitting in his office with a stopwatch. I've seen it. So do not be silly. I know he's doing it.
I typically don't do that, but right now for Chad, I actually am.
You should know, Chad, a few episodes ago, Monica Gentra actually killed it. So
she nailed
good
it.
luck with
Episode
this.
24 was Monica. She was phenomenal. She nailed it. So
No pressure then. Like, I'm good.
good luck, bud.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Six questions. You got to do 15 seconds or less. Answer each one. What is one ed tech tool you can't live without?
Edpuzzle or Actively Learn, anything that helps students work at their own pace.
What's a book that you are reading right now?
I'm about to read Run Like a Pirate. It's on its way to the house right now. I've been exercising and running, and Adam Welcome's amazing, so I'm excited to read that.
Awesome book. Love it. Life-changing. Who do we need to follow on Twitter today?
Teach Better Team, of course.
What is the best YouTube channel for educators?
Yeah, Teach Better Team. Can I say that again?
I knew it. Yeah, sure. Why not? That's all right.
We have a YouTube channel. People should check us out.
We're a little biased on this podcast today, but that's okay. I'm good with that.
I have to be a little bit self-serving during this. I'm going to use up the rest of my 30. I'm going to use up the rest of my 30 seconds per answer defending my answers. That's what I'll do.
There you go. What is one daily, weekly, or monthly routine that every educator should get into?
Taking care of yourself. Whether it's exercising, whether it's eating better, whether it's getting sleep, take care of yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself. I was not always good at this, but I've recently started taking better care of myself, and it's something I wish I had started a long time ago. So just taking better care of yourself so you can be the best version of yourself for your students, because you spending a bunch of extra time or killing yourself planning isn't going to help when you're only half as good as you could be in the classroom. So make sure you're taking time for yourself.
That was totally not 15 seconds, but awesome advice. So crucial. And I'm on the same path as you, and it's been life altering. So awesome advice. And speaking of advice, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
You can't control everything going on in education, but you can always control what happens in the 4 walls of your classroom. That is my mentor, Amanda Gillespie. I'm going to throw her name out there because she's an amazing educator. She was my mentor when I was a student teacher, and that's something that she told me really early on in my teaching career. And she said, there's a lot of crazy things going on in education. There's a lot of meetings that you don't want to go to. There's a lot of craziness and initiatives and new state rules that they change every 5 seconds. But what you can always control is what you should focus on. So you can always focus on, control, and change within the 4 walls of your classroom. And that is literally something that's just stuck with me, that I've always applied. And that's sort of where that solution-oriented mindset kind of was born from, is focus on what you can control, and you can control your classroom. So focus on that. Don't worry about all the other noise.
Well, Chad, I think you did pretty well on those questions. You did go a little over, but because of how great you are, we won't fault you. You can still get the award of doing really well on question 6.
Let's be honest, you all knew I was going to go over on those questions.
You are a talker, but we do love that about you. I mean, you really usually have good insight to share, so we let you talk.
It's done okay for us.
So the final question I have for you, Chad, is really how other people can get in contact with you. I know that you laughed at it earlier, but really connecting with you has truly changed my life for the better. I'm reaching more students than ever before, and it sounds cliche, but the fact that I stood, I didn't sit in class, but I stood in 8th hour today and conferenced with every single student today in my 8th hour class. I have 34 students. I either made eye contact with and had a conversation, or I conferenced on a math formative assessment today, and that has truly changed my practice. So how can people get in contact with you and make this magic happen in their own classrooms?
Yeah, absolutely. So follow me on Twitter at Chad Ostrowski, or you can follow us at Teach Better Team, of course. You can go to teachbetter.com. Always go there often. There's tons of amazing stuff, including a bunch of amazing resources that you can access. You can go to the Teach Better Team Facebook page, And yeah, so if you type in Teach Better in Google, a bunch of stuff's going to come up. Like, just click on all that stuff, and I'll be part of some of that too. So that's usually a good way to do it.
I hear there's a great podcast on teachbetter.com.
I've heard ramblings, you know what I mean? Not really sure if it's legit or not.
You haven't subscribed yet? Yeah, we understand.
But I've heard some good things. You guys, all seriously though, you guys are amazing. I love this. I love everything you've done to make this a reality. I can tell you as your colleague, as your friend, and as your undying supporter, even though I'm obviously close to this, this is something that you guys have done an absolutely amazing job with. I couldn't be more proud to have the Teach Better name on the amazing work that you guys do week in and week out, and the amazing people you bring and the amazing content you create for just educators across the country. So I want to personally thank you guys for all the hours and time you put into this, because you're doing amazing work, and I can't even say how humble I am to even call myself kind of part of where this came from. So you guys are amazing, just so you know.
Well, and you all know that you can find all that amazingness that Chad just talked about and everything and ways to connect with him, everything over at teachbetter.com. That's where we have all the show notes with all the links to everything we talked about and resources we've mentioned in the episode, as well as those links to connect with Chad, which are obviously all over the teachbetter.com website. So be sure to head over there to check out all of that stuff and all the free resources and everything we have over there. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any other of the upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. Chad, buddy, pal, business partner, whatever, colleague, friend, really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and finally getting this rocked out, and sharing a little more of your insight and story and stuff with everyone who's listening, man. We really appreciate it a whole lot.
I truly appreciate the opportunity, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Sounds good to me. And until next time, guys, let's get out there. Let's teach better.